Hello, and today we have Dr. Norvell Coots with us. This is Dr. Pallavi Gowda with Community Health. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm going to get started and introduce Dr. Norvell Coots. First of all, actually, before I do that, to our South Asians, I'd like to say Happy Diwali. Diwali, we know, is the festival of lights, and so it is the good over evil, the festival celebrating that and celebrating light and over darkness. So welcome to the show today. We'll get started. Let me introduce the superstar who I have with me today, who is Dr. Norvell Coots. He has so many accomplishments that please don't mind if I read off of a paper that I have here. So Dr. Norvell Coots is the president and CEO of Holy Cross Health and the president and CEO of the Maryland region of Trinity Health. He is a retired Brigadier General, former Commanding General and CEO of Regional Health Command Europe, and Command Surgeon, U.S. Army Europe and 7th Army. He has more than 20 years of executive experience in all aspects of healthcare management and medical administration. Dr. Coots attended Howard University and subsequently earned his undergraduate degree from the University of the State of New York. He also has a Master of Strategic Studies from the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and is Doctor of Medicine from University of Oklahoma Health Science Center College of Medicine in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. After a transitional internship in William Beaumont Army Medical Center in El Paso, Texas, he completed his dermatology residency at the Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, Texas. Welcome, Dr. Coots. It's an absolute honor to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the invitation to be a part of this show.
Oh, you are welcome. So today I want to, this show is a community spotlight show where I wanted to kind of have the community get to know Dr. Norvell Coots and, hear about his achievements in order to serve as an inspiration to anyone who is interested in healthcare management, who's interested in military service, our youth who may have questions. And, as you know, there's a lot of misconceptions going on. There's a lot of changes in military medicine as well as healthcare in general. And so, if you'd like to say a quick hello, where you were born, where you grew up, those kind of things, your hobbies, I would love to start with that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My father was a physician from Richmond, Virginia, and he and 3 classmates from medical school decided in the 1930s that they wanted to go out to the Wild West. And right at that point in time, Oklahoma was the Wild West. And so I'm a late child of much older parents. And so when my dad decided to close his practice and retire and move back to Richmond, Virginia, I was just approaching high school age. So I became a Richmonder, attended Benedictine Military Institute for high school. From there, I went to West Point. I spent a year at West Point and decided I really wanted to be a physician more than I wanted to be an infantry officer. And so transferred to Howard, finished up at SUNY, and then went on and got my medical degree eventually. My hobbies really, I've always, growing up in Oklahoma, I love horses. So I've always had horses, even in the military, wherever I moved. I had a horse that moved with me. And I currently have a horse today. I'll go out and I'll ride and I'll just clear my mind. I'll ride on a whole Saturday or a Sunday. I'm also a military historian. I minored in history. And so my entire basement is a military museum. I have uniforms, I have swords, I have saddles, I have military medical things. I have just about anything that a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine would have touched in the entire history of the United States Army, from the Revolution all the way down to current conflicts. My wife doesn't like it. She would like to have the basement back, but there you go. It's a compromise.
That's absolutely wonderful. What's your horse's name?
My horse's name is DJ Wyatt. His name is Wyatt, but the kids wanted to call him DJ Wyatt. So there you go.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So in military, world and military medicine, you were the head of regional command. Well, I actually had a chance to see you multiple times, just as a resident when you did a lot of like that we had to attend mandatory trainings on suicide awareness and those kind of things. I remember seeing you on those occasions. Otherwise,
Mhm.
I was just an intern and you were just regional command and CEO of Walter Reed. But um, just tell us what kind of experience that was like.
So Regional Health Command Europe was headquartered in Simbach, Germany, and really spanned literally all of Europe. So we consolidated all of Army medicine to include veterinary medicine, public health, and dentistry under one command. Previous to that, they had been separate commands in Europe. And so I had assets in England, in Spain, in Italy, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, as far away as Turkey. I was responsible for that. And because of the whole thing between the Israelis and the Saudis, Israel was considered part of Europe and not part of Central Command. So I had some responsibility for our relationship with the Israeli Defense Forces, medical forces, multinational force observers in the Sinai, and then also Kuwait, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. So it was a huge command, and I was always on the road and traveling. But it was fabulous because you got to go to so many interesting places and really and truly meet interesting people. And I think that is what I have always loved about being in the Army and military medicine, was just that opportunity. Medicine is a bridge. Everybody's a human being and everybody needs healthcare. And so when you come as a physician, you really come in peace. They never see you as a threat. And there's always an opportunity for an interchange, to develop a relationship. Even when I was in Afghanistan, I spent a year as the Surgeon General, U.S. Forces Afghanistan, and the NATO medical advisor. I still have Afghan medical generals who call me brother and will call me and send me emails just to check on me. And they actually named me. They named me Nur Ahmad Shah was the name that they gave me, because Ahmad Shah Baba Abdali was the great unifying king of Afghanistan. And so they said that the way that I brought the army, the police, the National Directorate of Health, Public Service, and the coalition military, all medical forces all together, was much as what he had done to bring the Afghan tribes together. And Nur, I guess, means the holy light or the light or something like that. So that was the name they gave me.
That's amazing, and that's reflective of your personality that they give you such a complimenting name. Now, one thing I've actually had the opportunity to speak to you about is when I speak to Indian Americans, for example, or South Asian parents, they hesitate to send their children to the military, and we spoke about how on whether it's using a gun, for example, parents often fear that. And so especially in your line of work, you said you also didn't have to even use it at any point. And so and I know as military doctors, many of the ones that I trained with didn't either. And so just clear up some misconceptions there.
No, absolutely. I mean, you are protected by the Geneva Conventions. You are a protected individual as a healthcare provider. And so you enjoy special protections, but at the same time, you you take it upon yourself to realize that you are a non-combatant. We all carried weapons and recognized that the weapon was really for our own personal protection, or more importantly, the protection of our patients. And so the entire time that I was in Afghanistan, I never took my pistol out of the holster except to clear it when I came on base or left the base. I mean, I never fired it a single time. And in all the years in the military, wherever I've traveled, whether I had a weapon or on me, I never ever had to use one. And so that's 36 years in the military. So I would say you're pretty safe. I had an uncle who was a medical officer in World War II. And for the entire 4 years that he was in Europe, he never even carried a weapon because he said, I'm a doctor, I'm not a combatant. And at one point in time, he would drive out to see all of his aid stations. The Germans would stop firing. And one day, a young German lieutenant stepped out of the woods as his Jeep went by and saluted him because they knew him and they recognized that he was truly a man of the Red Cross and was not a threat. And I think that that's absolutely incredible. But I remembered that story when I went forward into Afghanistan, and I said, I'm going to do the same thing. And pray to God that I come back, but nonetheless, I'm going in as a man of the cross, and that's it.
Right, right. That's so true, so important. One other thing I wanted to touch on was mental health and military medicine.
Mhm.
As I mentioned, we had to attend those mandatory um, conferences about that, and it was just to bring awareness. And so, things like the battle buddy and so forth. Can you expand upon that?
Yeah, so I would say, over the years from World War II through Korea into Vietnam, fast forward into now, our understanding of military mental health has greatly improved. And what we used to call malingering and things like that, we realize is really post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, we now have a name for it. We now fully recognize it. We speak about it openly so that nobody's ashamed to say it, even senior leaders coming back from Afghanistan. I have mild PTSD myself just because of the stresses of being in the combat zone. And you learn to recognize that. Secondary to that is suicidality. You talk about the number of veterans that are still committing suicide every day, like 21 veterans commit suicide every day because of what has still been a part of their life and that they haven't gotten the proper care for it. So the push now is A, to recognize it, B, to talk about it openly, C, to do the same things that we talked about in the military, which is to have a battle buddy, somebody who's looking out for you, who will see that maybe you're not doing well and say, hey, Van, how are you doing? Is there something you want to talk about? Rather than letting it get to the point where you decompensate and have to be admitted to the hospital for care, or heaven forbid, you do think about suicide or something like that. So we have gone light years in the military from where we were just during the Vietnam conflict, or even the original Gulf War. I mean, at that point in time, we still hadn't pinpointed this nebulous thing that was happening to people. And it wasn't until the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that we really crystallized around post-traumatic stress as a real thing that needed to be attended to. Fast forward to now, what I do here at Holy Cross, we created a military and veterans health program where we train our staff so they have cultural competency around what it means to serve Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, what it means to have deployed to all these different wars in different places, and the things that they see and experience so that we can better take care of a patient, recognizing that that patient who comes in, who might be a veteran or a family member who complains of a knee problem, may have something more going on behind them. But if you only focused on their knee and never asked, had they ever served or were they a family member of a veteran, you might not know the second and third order things that are going on that really need to be attended to just as much as that knee does.
Sure, sure. That's true. That's important to have that awareness and understand that. I remember when I was just an intern and I didn't have much experience in the military world, and I was taking care of a 22-year-old who just absolutely refused an admission and was very almost combatant, and just because he what we later learned was that he didn't want to be admitted. He actually had pulmonary emboli, and he didn't want to be admitted because the lights would be turned off in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of the night. And so, we kept the lights on, and therefore there's always ways to work around it. And so, and it is essence exactly what you said. It's PTSD. And so once that's identified and people are more aware, I think that civilians can better take care of soldiers understanding that. So that's wonderful. You're a great bridge to be doing that. In terms of Holy Cross, given the elephant in the room is really the COVID pandemic, correct? So, what exactly is Holy Cross doing? I have a lot of patients myself who, don't want to go to a hospital even if they need to, and so in terms of misconceptions, fears that people may have regarding admissions, what exactly is Holy Cross doing?
So let me just kind of fast forward or fast reverse back to the start of wave one. We have been in this mix since January of this year when we were sent the first patient to rule out COVID-19. We had actually been watching since November of last year the things that were developing in China and in Europe. And a lot of people know Holy Cross is the place where babies are born because we deliver almost 12,000 babies a year between the two hospitals. But a lot of people don't realize that we're one of the 5 special pathogen assessment hospitals in the state of Maryland. And this was set up around the time of the Ebola crisis. So we have special rooms, special training, special PPE and everything to treat things like Ebola and chikungunya fever and some of the other really deadly viral diseases that come from Africa and come from overseas. So we thought we had it down. We said, whatever this new thing is, we can handle it. But it quickly overwhelmed us. We diagnosed the first two patients in Maryland and the third patient attributed to Washington, D.C. And that was the first week in March. And it just ballooned after that. And at the high point, we were caring for 220 patients a day for about a month and a half. And then down to a steady state where we've been at about 50 patients. Now we're up a little to somewhere in the 60s to 70s, but we're still doing well. Over this period of time, we have learned how to treat patients. At first, we had no medications whatsoever. Then we had maybe hydroxychloroquine. Then we had maybe steroids. Then we had maybe all these things. Now we have remdesivir. We've got monoclonal antibodies. We've got this MAB, this BLAB, all these different biologics. And there's the new one coming out now. I can't even pronounce it. We just call it Bam Bam because we really can't pronounce the name. But all of these things, shorten the course of the care. We've also learned how to really segregate COVID-19 patients from our non-COVID-19 patients, creating spaces specifically for them, creating spaces specifically for non-COVID, separate entrances and exits in the hospital so that there's no chance that someone who is not COVID positive will accidentally become COVID positive in the hospital. One of the things we want people to do is have trust and faith and confidence in us that if they need the healthcare, they will not delay. Because what we saw with the first wave was that people would not come to the hospital. We're a stroke center, the strokes weren't coming, the heart attacks weren't coming. And when we asked emergency medical services what was happening, they said people are dying at home because they didn't want to come to the hospital. Right. And we never want to see that happen again. So as we go into wave 2, we are not going to cut back on electives. We're not going to cut back on urgent and emergent things. We have got cohorting of patients, different areas to care for folks. And so if you need the care, we want you to come to us and we want you to trust that we'll be able to take care of you.
Right, right. Oh, such an important message. In interest of time, any last messages you'd like to get out, whether it's, we've talked to the community about, things they can do for pandemic, but just in general, to the youth, things, any last messages you'd like to send out?
Yeah, to the youth, I always like to say, never give up. It sounds like I've had this fantastic career, and I have. I've truly been blessed to be able to live the career I've wanted to have, but it was no straight path. It was no easy path. There were obstacles in the way. There were things I had to overcome and get around. And so my philosophy has always been never give up, because that was the philosophy instilled in me by my father. So I would say to the youth, never give up. First and foremost, never give up on yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, why in the world would you ever expect anybody else to believe on you? Never give up on yourself. Number 2, never give up on your dreams. Of anything that you have, the only thing that you really own in this world are your dreams. Everything else can be taken away from you. Your money, your family, your home, your job, even your good name, but no one can ever take away your dreams. You have an obligation to work as hard as you can to make your dreams come true. And then for anyone who's interested in the healthcare fields, I add a third one in, and that is never give up on the people who trust their health, their wellness, and often their very lives to you. That's never give up on your patients. If you never give up on your patients will never, ever give up on you. So never give up.
That's a beautiful message. Sir, thank you so much for being with me today and doing this interview. I think that you're a great role model to many people in the community, including myself. And as I told you, I was so nervous to do this interview because you really are a superstar in my eyes. And so, to put it very lightly, I am honored to have you on this show. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Well, it's been a privilege, and happy Diwali. I wish that the pandemic was not such that I couldn't go to some of the celebrations, but everybody's hunkering down, and so I'll just say stay safe. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you so much.